Beyonce is dropping her seventh studio album, Renaissance. So let's talk about it. Guys, Beyonce is back and we are excited. I'm excited. Can't wait for it. But I really want to talk about some interesting things. Now, Beyonce, what is this album going to be about? What are you going to tell us in this album? So if you guys watched another video that I did, and I'm sorry, it seems as though my voice might be unsynced right now, so I don't know what's going on. But anyway, let me keep it moving. So Beyonce, I've talked about in a previous video where I broke down how Beyonce uses Black culture as a tool to not only spread awareness about Black issues, but also keep herself relevant at the same time. And so, but not only Black culture, Beyonce has used things that are going on in society, things that, causes. She's attached herself to causes, her music to causes, and been able to elevate or use that to stay relevant. She's attached herself to movements. That's how I phrased it. She's attached herself to movements, her brand and her music and her album. She does it per album. She attaches it to a movement and she uses that to stay relevant. So I talked about that in that video. I'm going to link to it down below. And so not only Beyonce is responsible for doing this, Michael Jackson did it. I mean, he probably is the one that pioneered it. Justin Bieber does it, but not to the extent of Beyonce. But Beyonce has really done it I think she's been the most direct with it. She's been the most obvious with it. And I first talked about how Lemonade, she attached herself to Black Girl Magic and Black Lives Matter, those two movements. And then after that, Everything Is Love, the album with Jay-Z, she attached herself to Black love. And as we can see right now on the internet, these are typically movements that are also internet trends. So we can see on the internet right now, it's all about Black love. Everybody's capitalizing on it. All the YouTubers that are growing fast are making Black love content. And then of course, Netflix, they have a series around Black love and Black cinema and Black love romance. It's huge on social media, and I don't think it's leaving us. So that's that. So, and then she did The Gift, which was the Black is King album, and that too sort of like was attached to Afrobeats and that movement that was going on with Afrobeats. So Beyonce attaches her brand to movements, in the culture. Now, what is a movement in the culture? Apparently, she wrote this album during the pandemic in 2020. So the most obvious thing to me is going to be around, probably around, we saw, what are some of the issues that we saw during COVID? The first obvious issue was the fact that we were in a pandemic and the world changed. So it's almost like an apocalypse kind of feeling, right? So that's one element she could tap into. Then we could see how Black people that Black lives are being ignored, and how Black women, they say that doctors are to Black women what police officers are to Black men. And so we see how in hospitals they disregard Black lives. So it's almost like talking about Black Lives Matter from an institutional level, a level, a system, institutional level, hospitals, Black economic empowerment. That's another element about COVID. We saw the pandemic caused sort of like a recession, and people were financially strapped, very tough times. So is she going to focus on that as well? Is she going to focus on these things? So one of the biggest movements right now going on online is Black economic empowerment and generational wealth for Black people. So if I'm going to predict anything, Beyonce has done Black Lives Matter, telling people the world that Black people matter. She did Black Girl Magic. That was Lemonade. Then she moved on to Black Love, which is a movement that's going on right now. Then she moved on to Africa, which Afro beats, attaching herself to Africa and the Renaissance that's going on in Africa right now, the Black Renaissance that's going on in Africa right now. And now she's attaching herself, in my view, my predictions is she's attaching herself to the collective Black Renaissance that's going on. And the album is called Renaissance. It reminds me of the Harlem Renaissance. It seems like my thing is delayed, so I'm just gonna put Beyonce's image on here. So to me, what I think that Beyonce is doing now is attaching herself to the Black Renaissance that's going on. Now, when we look at Tidal and we look at the post that they made, what do you notice? Let me pull up that post by Tidal. They posted this on Twitter, the album cover. We can see it right here. What is that album cover? It says Act 1 Renaissance. It is black. It's coming out July 29th, as we can see. I don't think you can see this, but let me pull this down a little bit. See that? July 29th. And this black album cover with the title Act 1 and Renaissance. Now, what that tells me, first of all, the color is black. I'm thinking about the whole George Floyd incident. I'm thinking about Blackout Tuesday. Was it Blackout Wednesday? I don't remember what day of the week it was, but when everybody's social media had black on it, I'm thinking about Black lives. I'm thinking she's going to do something around how Black lives are discarded, not only men being killed by police, which was a big issue during Black Lives Matter. And this is when she recorded her album, but also Black lives in the hospitals being disregarded, Black economic empowerment being a thing of discussion. This is what I see. And I think about the Harlem Renaissance as a model for, discussing how we're seeing Black media, Black entertainment, Black art, Black music. We're seeing more ownership within the Black community. We're seeing more Black economic empowerment. We're seeing more awareness about the importance of ownership with Black people. I think she's going to tie these themes together. This Black Renaissance, where Black content is bigger and better than it's ever, and more in demand than it's ever been before. Black art coming from Africa, coming from the world, Black food, Black culture, it's more elevated than it's ever been before because of social media. I see Beyonce using that as a movement in this new album. This is just my prediction. This is what I see happening. This is what I expect from Beyonce. Attaching herself to movements that are relevant. That is what she does. And what is relevant right now? Black economic empowerment, the Black Renaissance in Black art, ownership amongst Black people, Black culture across social media. Right now, I would say in the past, it was like we were graduating and getting there. We are there now. It is time. Beyonce typically wants to be the leader of the movement. That's typically what she does. And she actually, I've broken this down. Some people say that Beyonce attaches herself to these movements for clout and this and that. But actually, when we think about it, sure, it helps her stay relevant, but she also gives the movement attention. She gives the movement branding. She gives the movement the marketing push that it needs to get the conversation going. And so if I'm going to predict what is Beyonce going to talk about in this new album, this new album that we can see from the cover art, it seems to be black. That's what it's telling me. Another thing that I thought was interesting is that on the album, what looks like it's an album cover, we don't know, but what we see there is, man, this computer is slow. But what we see there on this album cover is, it says Act 1. Now that reminds me of Shakespeare. This reminds me of Shakespeare, medieval, or Shakespeare plays. This obviously reminds me of not only the Harlem Renaissance, but also reminds me of the Renaissance period as well in art, right? Combining these two together, look, again, I'm just guessing. I don't know. I'm not on Beyonce's team, but I won't be surprised if she visually uses some visual cues from the historic Renaissance period. When was the Renaissance period? I want to say, wait, Renaissance. I think about Renaissance painting, but Renaissance, because we've seen Beyonce in these, 1800 gowns. So I would be curious. Okay, so the Renaissance period was 1400 AD to 1600. Now, I would not be surprised if we see Beyonce in some of these medieval outfits. Maybe that's an experimental thing, because then she's talking about Act One. Again, I don't know why. For me, visually, I just remembered Macbeth. I remembered Shakespeare. I remember Othello. That's the things. These are things I'm thinking about. But who really knows? Beyonce keeps it a secret. We don't know. But one thing I think is interesting, I just wanted to finalize with this point, is how she's using traditional marketing tools this time around. And I wonder why, because normally Beyonce will drop a song, drop an album overnight, and boom, it sells out. But I think that is so expected that perhaps, and maybe that strategy doesn't work anymore. She did release that the song for King Richard. She released that overnight. Was there a much hype around that? I don't know. Did the results show the same way? I don't know. Is there just so much more competition online that it's possible for Beyonce to do a drop and it completely flops? Possibly. But I think right now Beyonce is just trying to be different. She's innovating. She's doing things differently. And because of that, she's doing traditional marketing, and she's letting us all know, hey, this album is coming out July 29th. Stay tuned. So that's interesting to me. Does that mean that we're going to get a music video drop before that date? That would be very interesting, right? Are we going to get a music video before that date? It's just over a month away. Very interesting stuff. Anyway, let me know your thoughts about this. I'm excited to see Beyonce's new album. Let me know your thoughts. Leave a comment down below. Don't forget to like, follow, subscribe, all the above. You're watching Brand Video Pro. I'm your host, Kenim O. And like I told you guys, I'm going to tomorrow's the last day that I'm going to post. And I'll be back in July. Hopefully, I'll be back right before Beyonce drops her album so I can talk about it. But I'm taking a break. I've been working so hard, been posting every day for almost a year, and I'm going to be taking a break, a hiatus, just for a couple weeks, just to relax, to recoup, to